A big change in the race for U.S. Senate in Texas. A high-profile Republican joins the already heated primary.
We're going to see a three-way battle where a tremendous amount of money gets spent between now and March on the Republican side.
We look at how Wesley Hunt's campaign changes the outlook for Republicans, and why someone who's not in the race could shake things up for Democrats. The legal battle over deploying the Texas National Guard to Illinois keeps evolving. We dig into how deployments get authorized and what makes this one different.
We have won a battle, but we have certainly not won the war.
A court blocks the execution of death row inmate Robert Robertson. One lawmaker is pushing back.
This is not a case where we have an innocent defendant.
But Robertson is also getting bipartisan support for a new trial. We look closer at the debate.
Produced from the Capitol in Austin and airing statewide, this is the award-winning State of Texas.
Hello and thank you for joining us. I'm Josh Hinkle. One of the most contentious primary races in Texas is adding a new face to the fray. After months of speculation, Republican Congressman Wesley Hunt announced he's running for Senate. Hunt now joins Attorney General Ken Paxton as a major primary challenger to unseat incumbent Senator John Cornyn. Capitol reporter Adam Schwager looks closer at Hunt's decision to run and breaks down his chances.
A new contender is entering the U.S. Senate race.
It is time for people that are in their 30s and 40s and 50s to step into the fray because we have skin in the game.
U.S. Representative Wesley Hunt has been on the fringes of the Republican primary race for a while. In March, an independent organization spent millions of dollars to place ads supporting Hunt on television and other media across the state. 8 months later, he's officially in.
The people of Texas and the primary voter, they're speaking. There's 23% of the people that are undecided on both of these two candidates, which obviously leaves a lane for us to get in.
In response, his fellow Republican primary candidates weighed in. A senior advisor for Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton told the Texas Tribune, "We welcome Wesley Hunt into the race." Incumbent Senator John Cornyn's senior advisor took a less graceful approach, saying in part, "Wesley Hunt is a legend in his own mind." No one is happier this morning than the National Democrats, who are watching Wesley continue his quixotic quest for relevancy.
We're going to see a three-way battle where a tremendous amount of money gets spent between now and March on the Republican side.
Mark P. Jones is a politics professor at Rice, who helped craft a recent University of Houston, Texas Southern University poll. Their analysis found Paxton with a 1-point lead over Cornyn, with Hunt 11 points behind Cornyn. However, the poll was conducted before Hunt even entered the race.
1 out of every 3 Republican primary voters doesn't know much about him. So that provides him with an opportunity to introduce himself positively to those voters.
Jones also said the effect could go the opposite way if Cornyn and Paxton successfully attract voters who are not yet aware of Hunt. In Austin, I'm Adam Schwager.
The U.S. Senate race in Texas has significant national relevance. The outcome could determine whether Democrats or Republicans control the Senate. We want to dive deeper into the race. Our Adam Schwager spoke with Rice University professor Mark Jones about polling and how a Democrat who's not currently in the race could have a chance to win.
Talk to me a little bit about the primary polling that we're seeing on the Republican side. Obviously, this was conducted up until October 1st, before Wesley Hunt decided to jump in the race. He is now in the race. How significant is it that he was already at 22% of the potential vote without having put his name forward yet?
Well, Hunt hadn't formally thrown his hat in the ring. He was being considered as a potential candidate. So the survey tested for him, and we see that he has about a fifth of the support of the Republican primary electorate compared to about a third that's enjoyed by Cornyn and Paxton. So he's about 10 to 12 points behind the two frontrunners. The thing that Hunt still has going for him, though, is that about 1 out of every 3 Republican primary voters doesn't know much about him. So that provides him with an opportunity to introduce himself positively to those voters, but it also provides the Cornyn camp, the Paxton camp, or both with the opportunity to effectively introduce and educate those voters about Hunt in a more negative way. I think we're going to see a real sort of battle. We're going to see a three-way battle where a tremendous amount of money gets spent between now and March on the Republican side, with the goal of getting one of the two spots in the now virtually certain May runoff where the Republican nominee will be chosen. And then that nominee will then be involved in a race where somewhere between $50 and $100 million will be spent by them and their supporters as they approach November.
Assuming we do get that runoff, and we're looking at 3 primary candidates right now, how much different does a runoff look like if it's, say, Hunt versus Paxton versus Cornyn going in against one of those two?
Hunt's entry into the race really complicates things for Cornyn. His strategy was to win in March, where you have a broader, more diverse, and potentially more moderate on average Republican primary electorate, always within the context of Republican primary voters. If past predicts present, the March primary electorate will be more favorable for John Cornyn than the May primary electorate. So if Hunt's entry into the race simply forces a runoff, that's good news for Paxton and bad news for Cornyn. Cornyn effectively has to do 2 things. He has to fend off Hunt attempting to leapfrog him and get one of those 2 spots in the primary runoff. And then in that primary runoff, he's going to face an uphill battle against Ken Paxton, where you're going to go into it with a majority of the voters in that May primary often being very conservative, and Cornyn will have to convince them why they should vote for him rather than the Attorney General.
So shifting over to that Democratic primary, a lot of the polling that I had seen, not from you guys, but heading into this, was a lot of low name recognition for James Tallarico, either in those polls when he was rumored to run or since he got in. Your polling shows that he's fairly neck and neck now with Colin Allred. How much should we read into how fast James Tallarico has ascended in this race to get it this close, this fast?
Well, I think Tallarico has the momentum, whereas Allred is more or less stuck where he is and has plateaued, at least right now. So if we're looking at these results, the poll results show Allred having a narrow 4-point advantage over Tallarico, which is close to a tie, but with about 1 in 4 Democratic primary voters not knowing enough about Tallarico to have an opinion of him, compared to only 1 in 10 for Allred, meaning that Tallarico has potentially much more room to grow in terms of boosting his support among demographics where he already is winning a majority, such as white voters and Latino voters. Allred really in some ways needs to hit a reset and do something to change the image that he has among Democratic primary voters of not being sufficiently progressive and not being sufficiently willing to fight against Donald Trump. That may be an unfair portrayal of Allred, but it's one that his 2024 campaign against Ted Cruz in the November election left in the minds of many Democratic primary voters. And what our poll results show is that while Allred is well liked among Democratic primary voters, his favorable rating is very high, his unfavorable rating is very low. When asked who do they prefer, Allred or Tallarico, Allred or Crockett, Allred or O'Rourke, Democratic primary voters always opt for another candidate. And with the gap being especially large for Jasmine Crockett, who really fits the bill of what many Democratic primary voters want to see, that is somebody who's fighting tooth and nail against the Trump administration and has a progressive agenda and isn't trying to make nice with Republicans or try to reach a consensus. That's one of the reasons why Crockett is so popular, and also one of the reasons why Beto O'Rourke is so popular. I think right now what these data show me is that if Jasmine Crockett were to enter the race, she would immediately become the favorite to win, although it would be quite likely that if Allred and Tallarico remained in the race, that it would go to a May runoff.
You can find more coverage of the race for Senate right now on our website. We posted video of our full interview with Republican candidate Wesley Hunt. Plus, we have links to our previous interviews with the Democrats in the race. Just look for this week's State of Texas story. A Texas court blocks the execution of a man convicted of killing his 2-year-old daughter. We look at the division over the decision and what comes next. Courts take up the question of when it's legal to deploy National Guard soldiers to other states. We dig into how deployments get authorized and what makes one involving Texas troops different.